Hello, welcome to Encore, your daily dose of arts and culture news. I'm Jade Barker. Great to have you with us. Coming up in today's show. Blurring the lines. My guest today likes to explore the distinctions between interior and exterior, lifelike and surreal, the grotesque and the beautiful. Canadian artist David Alme joins me on set to tell us more. Plus, the ultimate arty party. We check out a new event here in Paris which takes gallery hopping to the next level. And half a square metre of freedom. They may be behind bars, but prisoners are showing they still have freedom of expression. All that to come, but first let's go meet our guest. Hello, David. Such a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
You're here in Paris for an exhibition of your work, which is taking place at the Museum of Modern Art. It's been described as an expansive survey of your career. The title of the show is Flux, which I thought was actually quite an apt name for the show. How do you think that this is an apt description for your work?
The title Flux? Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, partly we decided to call it Flux because the major piece in the exhibition is called The Flux and the Puddle, and we decided that it was the main piece. So we wanted to acknowledge it, but it is very appropriate also because the idea of flux is inside every piece that I make, and we try to install the work so that it would create a sort of flow and flux within the show. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that then, how you say that your work is about flux and things that are inside and outside. You really explore the boundaries between, or paradoxes, in fact.
Exactly. I really, what's the most important thing for me when I make sculpture is that the work will feel like it's alive in a certain way. And for that, I use different strategies, I try to create, I try to give the impression that the work contains energy, for example. And I can use different strategies for that. For example, I like tensions, You were talking, in the intro, you mentioned that there's a lot of the presence and tensions between beauty and the grotesque. That's just one example, An object that contains two opposite poles creates a sort of tension. And in my mind, that generates energy. It's just like an electrical circuit. If there's a positive and a negative pole, then there's a difference in tension and the electricity starts running through the circuit. And I just feel like it's the same for objects.
Right. There's a lot of recurring motives in your work as well. For example, the werewolf and these giant-like sculptures, which are absolutely amazing. You once said, when I work, the body is like a universe where I can lose myself. I know that you actually have a background in biology. Can you explain a bit more by what you meant by that statement and how that background influences your work?
I think that, I don't know if the background influences the work. I think that that's just the way I approach things. So the reason that I was really interested in biology, actually I started studies in biology, was because I was fascinated with living things and transformation and reproduction and life and energy. And, I just decided not to be a biologist and be a sculptor instead, but I approach things the same way exactly. So I'm fascinated through sculpture, I'm fascinated in life, energy, transformation, same things.
Okay, well, talking about life and energy, this event might interest you. It's billed as one big arty party. Picture this, more than 40 galleries all opening their doors late into the night, serving wine with their works of art and music alongside their murals. This is the premise of a new event here in the French capital called Jeudi Arty. It takes place in the Marais neighbourhood 3 times a year only and is based on an idea from across the channel. I caught up with the founder of the event.
There's many ways to experience art, and I think galleries are often misunderstood as a place you can actually experience art in a way that is really interesting and in a way that is not so much cold, and it's not just a white box that you're actually entering into. It's actually artists can be there, galleries that can talk to you about the artist. So I think that's something I want to prove. Yeah.
Now, David, I know you're partly based in New York, and there's a similar event there, I believe, on Thursday nights. Lots of the galleries in Soho, Chelsea area open late and people gallery hop. Do you think these types of events can change the perhaps elitist perception people have of contemporary art?
I don't know. I don't think so. Well, actually, personally, I'm not very much into that kind of scene. I'm just a very serious worker. I don't gallery hop, and I don't go to openings. And
You don't like to see other people's works?
I mean, the reason I make art is because I'm not a very sociable person.
Right.
So it's kind of contradictory. I prefer just to stay in my studio and.
Talking about inspiration, I wanted to delve more into that with you. You also have said that the process for you is paramount. It's more important than where you get your inspiration from. How do you go about creating your works?
Actually, when I start working on the piece, it's usually the result of the previous piece I made. So, when I work on a piece, it's going to end up containing all sorts of mistakes and surprises and new ideas. And for the next piece, I kind of isolate one of these new ideas that I got in the previous piece, and I make an independent sculpture with it. Usually that's the way it works.
Well, talking about your inspiration, there's another different exhibition taking place here in Paris. Some 150 works of art are created in prisons around the world are being shown at Dorothy's Gallery at the American Center for the Arts. The exhibition is called Half a Square Meter of Freedom. This is what the director had to say about it.
What is interesting with art made in prison is the quality and intensity of the work that is produced. When looking at this art, it is impossible to see that prisoners made it, not famous artists.
David, you've said before that the exhibition space is as a body that's integrated into your sculptures, and your surroundings also influence your work, or vice versa. How do you think something like this exhibition, where artists are incarcerated but they're expressing their freedom of expression, is that similar to what your artistic ideals are?
I could never compare myself to someone who's in prison, I mean, I could never dare even, that would be very...
How do you think, though, one's surroundings can influence their work and vice versa?
Well, it does, absolutely. Actually, no, I think it's amazing. What I just heard is absolutely amazing. Just the idea that someone would not be free and would be secluded and have no relationship would be completely anonymous and isolated. And just to have this... actually, I was thinking it would be amazing if... I don't know if that exhibition is showing works that have just been made, but it would be really amazing to just offer this outlet to prisoners constantly, so that they would feel like they can actually be creative and make art, and that it's going to be shown to the world. That would be absolutely amazing.
Okay, well, talking about spaces and how they influence art and vice versa, we have time for one last item of art news. Morocco has just opened its first museum devoted to contemporary art, and the first major museum built since the country gained independence from France in 1956. Located in the capital Rabat, it took 10 years to build and showcase Moroccan works from the early 20th century to today as part of a broader development project to transform Rabat into a real cultural crossroads. Perhaps something to think about there for David. Well, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming in to speak to us. Don't forget you can catch David Alme's exhibition Flux here in Paris at the Museum of Modern Art until the beginning of February. To round off our arty edition of Encore, we're going to leave you now with art on the big screen. After debuting in Cannes, Frederick Wiseman's documentary about the National Gallery in London is finally being released here in French cinemas. The 3-hour film is homage to one of the greatest museums in the world and the relationship between painting and storytelling. We leave you now with an excerpt from that. Enjoy, and don't forget there's more culture news on our website, Facebook and Twitter.